So for this video, we're going to go through live sections for point cloud drafting. We're going to go over setting up our point cloud to maximize the efficiency of the live section, as well as creating the live section cuts and manipulating them. So here we have a point cloud from a recent scan, and I have already cropped out some of the site data that the scan picked up. Things we don't need since we are just drafting and working with a floor plan for the sake of this video. So the first thing I need to do is set up this point cloud, and what I want to do is have it to where the finished floor is as close to 0, 0 on the x-axis as possible. So we're going to start with changing our view to the front. We're going to make our UCS set to this view, and I'm going to use a horizontal construction line, and I'm going to place that at 0, 0, 0 on all three axes. So as you can see, our point cloud finished floor is down here, where our 0, 0 plane is up here. So simply just want to use the move command, pick a happy medium in between all of the finished floor points. I'm going to go with this, and we're just going to move it to be snapped on our horizontal line at 0, 0. So now, in theory, our point cloud's finished floor is at 0, 0, and this is going to help us with manipulating our live section and telling it where to go in relationship to this 0 point. So I'm going to get rid of that horizontal line now, and we are ready to create the actual live section. Slice. So it's pretty simple. We're going to select our point cloud to get our point cloud commands shown, and we're going to use the section plane command. I like to choose the 2-point section plane and just pick 2 points through the center of the cloud. Now what it's originally done here is it's created a planar cut. So anything above this line is going to be visible. It gives it a dynamic property to switch between above the line or below the line of what is actually going to be viewed. The other thing we can do is go to this caret drop down, and we can change it to a slice. Now this is going to be our actual live section slice. So with that done, now we have our slice created. I am going to switch to the top view so you can see what that has done. So if we go back to our top view, you can see now everything within that slice is visible on the point cloud. So if we go back to our front view, there's a few things we can do, and there's a few adjustments we can make to this section. So up here are a few adjustments. You have slice thickness as well as section offset. Slice thickness is how thick of a slice are you cutting through the point cloud. So in this case we can do 12. If we want to be able to see more, we can do 36. We can make this as big as we want. Typically I'll work between the 12 and 24 inch range, so I get a good amount of information per slice. Now this section offset is in relationship to Z. So I can, from this view, change my UCS again to view, and I can move this up and down as I need to see whatever information I want to in the cloud. And I can also change this offset, because every time we move it, this offset number changes, and it seems to always be negative, which doesn't really make sense. But negative, the higher number, you're actually raising the section cut up, where the lower number is lowering it. So if I want to see more RCP info, I can tell this to sit at -96, roughly 8 feet. We can switch back to our top view, and as you can see, now we're seeing more RCP. Now the reason that it's good to use those numbers and having that 0, 0 is if I don't want to keep switching my view, I can select my section cut and I can change its coordinates while staying in one view. So if I want to come down and see more floor plan info, I can come down to 36, and here I see mostly just walls. If I want to see more furniture and tables, I can come down to maybe 24, and now I start seeing more things. So this is really handy when drafting, as you don't need to make multiple crop cuts throughout the time you're drafting, and you don't have to save them, and you can constantly switch back and forth with ease between different planes on the floor plan to get different information as you go. So the other thing we can do here is we can also use this for elevation. So where I want to get height information, I can change this section slice cut to be through the plan from this top view, and it's going to show me a section in elevation view. So we'll go through showing that right now. I've switched over to showing both of my screens, and I've extended my CAD screen to show two separate viewports, one showing my top view and the second viewport showing my front view. So I'm going to start by being in my top view, and I'm going to create my same 2-point section cut, and I'm just going to go through the middle of the store here. Again, it's become a plain cut, so we're going to switch this over to a slice. I like to make this slice as narrow as I can work with, which is about 1 foot, so I can see different 1-foot sections of the point cloud at a time. Another thing that tends to happen, and it may not happen to you, but I have noticed this, is that working with two different viewports, sometimes AutoCAD forgets which UCS it's referencing while you're working in that space. So I may come over to my top view and try to move this section cut, and it may reference the UCS on my other viewport of, the elevation UCS I've created. So if that ever happens and you're having some difficulty moving stuff, just always set your UCS over per viewport. So if I'm in my top view, I'm going to go UCS world again, or if I'm in my front view, I'm going to tell it UCS view again. Just something to note if you're having issues. So if I'm going to use this section cut, I'm most likely going to use it to gather different ceiling heights, maybe structural height information. I may even use it to draft interior elevations. It's always nice to have your floor plan at least done before you start using the live section for heights. This way you can move your section slice with seeing the viewport. And see, here I have that issue where AutoCAD has forgotten which UCS I'm working with. So in my top view, I'm going to tell it UCS world again. So as I move this slice around, I can't really see what I'm looking at, so I'm going to turn on the floor plan that I drafted previously. And now you can see, alright, if I want to, let's say, draft an elevation of this front of the store, I'm going to move my section to right at those wall faces. And from my top view, I'm basically going to do my drag line. So I'm going to use construction lines. I'm going to just quickly get this section. And then from this view, using my established finished floor construction line, I can just measure what my offsets are. So in this case, I'm going to measure from finished floor to about the ceiling at 119. I'm going to just round to the nearest inch. So I'll come back to my top view and I'll do my offset of 119. And then I can trim and finish drafting from there basically. So I'm only using this live section for different heights. I don't want to just trace off of this live section. I want to still draw a standard elevation by dragging lines. This way I know that I'm matching the floor plan. And I'm again using this only for reference offsets. So if I get that offset at 90, we'll say 90. I'll come back here, do my offset for 90. and then just finish out the drafting part. Trimming out lines. And another thing you can do is once you've gotten a few height offsets, if you're having computer speed issues or processing issues, you can basically jot down your different heights and turn your live section or point cloud off if you've put your point cloud on a specific layer. It's always good to set up layers for your point cloud and live sections so you can turn them off and on as you need. So our point cloud being on a layer, our live section can go on its own layer. And if we're having lag issues with the station or computer in general, we can freeze them to turn them off. My station currently is lagging on processing this point cloud with the live sections, so I'm trying to turn it off there. Now with everything off, we should be able to move and draft easily. We can also switch this to wireframe, which requires a lot less processing power, and then we can come back with our offset notes and do the drafting there. You can have multiple live section slices in your CAD drawing at the same time. I don't recommend having more than 2 at a time, because what can happen is that the amount of live sections and the fact that CAD's trying to read everything through 2 different viewports especially can cause issues in crashing your station. I only use the 2 viewports myself when doing getting elevation and height information. I prefer to, at most, keep it to 1 viewport, especially when drafting floor plan, RCP, or anything else to do with plan view, just because my station runs better with only worrying about 1 viewport. And that's basically it for live sections. They work really well for, not having to constantly crop the plan, and even using saved crops. You can move them within fractions of an inch to really hone in on some information you're trying to see, especially in RCP where you have fire sprinklers and a hard-lived ceiling, so it's really hard to see some of those, and you can move up, at a ½ an inch to see just the slightest detail a lot better than trying to figure out where's the best crop. If you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.